والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع ذنوبنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبا القاسم محمد والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد فقد قال الله في كتابه الكريم وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولكل أمة جعلنا منسكا ليذكروا اسم الله على ما رزقهم من بهيمة الأنعام فإلهكم إله واحد فله أسلموا وبشر المخبتين الذين على ذكر الله وجلت قلوبهم والصابرين على ما أصابهم والمقيم الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. صلوات على محمد وعلى محمد. The verse which I've recited is from Surah Al-Hajj. And Surah Al-Hajj is, as the Quran is itself, a phenomenal opportunity for humankind to be awoken to this beautiful message of God. The surah which I hope to just shed some light on or share some thoughts with regards to today brings together a whole range of diverse themes, arguably giving a very holistic vision of Islam to such a point, the variety of themes which is dealt with in this surah has confused some of the Mufassirin to say that was it a Makki surah or was it a Madani surah? It deals with those broad, universal themes of belief as well as specific issues of legislation. And although seems to have been revealed early in the period of the Prophet's life in Medina, it does deal with this universal aspect of Islam as well as the very specific. Framed around this engagement with the usul al-iman, the fundamentals of belief, in the most beautiful of ways. The surah asks to think about our core doctrine. It offers justifications for it, engages with challenges about the reality of the afterlife, about the nature of God's oneness, about the fickleness of man's worship. The verse says, مِنَ النَّاسِ مَن يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. It says how many people there are that worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the edge. When they receive goodness, they're satisfied. As soon as a trial tests them, they turn on their head. That's the language of the Quran. It says they flip on their head. Okay? It says these people khasra dunya wal akhirah. It says these people have lost this world and the next. It calls us for very deep engagement with our belief system. It starts with the ma'ad. And then it says that this day, there's a day which cannot be denied. Look around you for examples and tries to give us justification. It says, insan, look at themselves from where they have come, from the earth, from an impure clot, on to fullness of age. Some of them are taken early in their life. Others reach an old age, only to have lost everything they thought they had. They lose their strength, they lose their knowledge. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who takes us through each of these phases, is surely capable of giving us another phase in life to come. He says, look at the world around you, how He changes the green into the brown and the brown back to the green. Continuously asking us to look very, very carefully at our belief system, seek to engage with it, to justify it, such that it has an impact on our life in the here and now, as well as the hereafter. So, the verse is framed around these broad discussions about the reality of another life to come, about the nature of our ibadah, of directing ourselves towards God and God alone, and of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one around whom everything revolves. But it also then goes into the very, very nitty-gritty of certain ritual differences and the prescription of acts upon the Muslims. Those broad themes of belief, of the hereafter, of the oneness of God, of prophethood, would tend to be things which were dealt with in the early part of the Prophet's mission. Here we find this all in one surah. These fundamental themes as well as specific teachings. Perform the Hajj, sacrifice this animal, walk around a Kaaba. Very, very, if there's one thing which epitomizes the ritualistic aspect of Islam, it's Hajj. We can't deny this. Okay, the purely devotional, apparently non-rational acts. Walk around a black box 7 times. Walk backwards and forwards. Okay, stand in this direction, do that direction. Slaughter the animal here. This verse, subhanAllah, really brings together this. How can we understand this particularity of practice in the context of those broader themes and the diversity of humankind? Look at the verse which I've read at the beginning of the surah. It says, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ جَعَلْنَا مَنْسَكًا. This is specifically seems to have been in reference to one of those acts of the Hajj, which is the sacrifice, of which we mark the Eid al-Adha. It says, وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ جَعَلْنَا مَنْسَكًا. It says, for every group, we've given them a specific way. Look, the differences, it seems like people found it very strange, even then, the specific way the Muslims were acting. Okay, because the Abrahamic traditions before had different ways of offering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala slaughter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, calm down everybody. This difference is because of Him. He's the source of the difference. Alhamdulillah. وَلِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ, every group, جَعَلْنَا مَنْسَكًا, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them a way, has given them a form, has given them a ritual. لِيَذْكُرَ اسْمَ اللَّهِ عَلَى مَا رَزَقَهُم مِّن بَهِيمَةِ الْأَنْعَامِ, so they may mention the name of God over that which they have been given in the way of cattle. There's difference. The difference is attributed to God. فَإِلَاهَكُمْ إِلَاهٌ وَاحِدٌ. What's important is that your God is one God. فَلَهُ أَسْلَمُوا, to Him submit. These particular differences are meant to take us somewhere, move us to that which is beyond, to that which is universal. وَبَشِّرِ الْمُخْبِتِينَ. Amazing. The verses give news to those who are humble. Look, the differences of Muslim, Christian, Jew, the differences in ritual aren't meant to make us feel better than everybody else. Of course, as Muslims, we believe that Rasulullah Muhammad salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi brought the most complete way of practice for that time and that place, which has eternal value. This is the belief of the Muslim. Okay, the Muslims believe he was the completion, he was the Khatam al-Nabiyyin. But still, when the Quran is recognizing the real difference in ritual practice, it says, فَبَشِّرِ الْمُخْبِتِينَ. Now give good news to those who are humble. It's not that, okay, we have the teachings of Rasulullah, so we should assume ourselves as being better than everybody else. Look, if that's the impact of the teachings and the practice of the Sharia of Rasulullah, we've understood nothing of this Sharia. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, after describing the specific form of practice of Muslims, Bashir al-Mukhbitin, give good news to those who are humble. Your differences shouldn't be a means of pride for you over one another. Should be a means of humility. The Mukhbitin. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues, is alladhina idha dhukira Allah wajilat qulubuhum. Says, who are these humble people? They're the ones, when God's name is mentioned, their heart starts to turn. وَالصَّابِرِينَ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَهُمْ. Not like those ones described earlier in the surah, who said that as soon as a trial hits them, they turn on their heads. Says, no, these are the people, when trials afflict them, they're patient. Look, their doctrine has an impact on their life. It is a difficult life. We have problems, whatever it may be, in our studies, in our work, in our relationships, with our engagement with the outside. Look, if our doctrine of God and our religion doesn't help us engage with this reality, it's useless. Okay? If this particular practice of Islam doesn't make us more humble, doesn't allow us to turn when we hear the mention of God, and doesn't help us to be patient when difficulties afflict us, it hasn't yet been successful for us. وَالْمُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ, they are the ones who continue to maintain their relationship with God through prayer. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ, and they are the ones who give of that which they are given. Look, this is a remarkable surah, and I've just picked up one verse so far, which deals with these broad themes of God's doctrine, as well as very particular aspects of different religious practice. Phenomenal surah. But the entire surah, like the Hajj itself, which it is named after, seems to revolve around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It begins with God and it ends with God. The first ayah of this surah commences with Ya ayyuhan nas, Ya ayyuhan nas. Again, look at the universality. O humankind, ittaqu rabbakum. Be conscious of your Lord. Very strange, very amazing. It is taqwa which we associate with being a quality of Muslims per se, Muslims in the narrow sense. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing everybody, saying, "O humankind, be conscious of God." Allah Matabai says, definitely this is including absolutely everybody, this address. The specific believers who were present and the ones who weren't present. The Muslims and the non-Muslims, those who were present and those who are yet to come. And it makes us realize that this taqwa or God consciousness must be more than simply observing halal and observing haram of any one particular tradition. This taqwa, if it was a duty, as this verse suggests, is upon all humankind, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of when they came, must be something achievable by all. And the particular tradition is just a means towards that. In fact, we know, of course, one of the definitions of taqwa which the ulama have given us, based on a hadith of the A'immah, is that taqwa is to maintain that which is halal and to avoid that which is haram. But this is only one aspect. In fact, we know if we observe halal and haram without consciousness of God, it can be destructive. Was not Shimar one who observed halal and haram? He prayed, he fasted, he recited the Quran. Yet what did he do? He destroyed his own life and he destroyed the life of so many with him. No, maybe this is why consciousness and niyyah and awareness has been so emphasized in the Muslim tradition. Reporting a tradition attributed to Imam Sadiq, salawatullahi wassalamu alayhi, says, La budda lil abd min khalis al-niyya fi kulli harakatin was-sukun. Says it's necessary for the devotee of God to try to get something of a pure intention in every movement and every rest. Subhanallah. Not just for salat do we need niyyah. Imam Sadiq is saying, try to get some pure intention, some pure consciousness, some awareness in every movement and every rest. Yeah? Because إِذَا لَمْ يَكُنْ بِهَذَا الْمَعنى, if he doesn't achieve this state, then he is ghafil, he's unattentive. And he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قَدْ وَصَفَ اللَّهُ الْغَافِلُونَ, when he says kal an'am aw ashadda sabila aw adalla sabila. Imam Sadiq says that, look, if you don't have awareness in what you do, you don't have consciousness in what you do, then you're like those who are oblivious. And the oblivious people have been described in the Quran as being like animals, like cattle, or even worse, or on an even worse path. Look, it seems Imam Sadiq, in line with this beautiful vision of Islam, is saying to be truly human requires us to be conscious, to be self-aware, to be free. And surely, if we are self-aware, we will be aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammad wa ahli bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin. The surah that we've been discussing, Surah Al-Hajj, like I said, it brings together this remarkably holistic vision of Islam, okay, dealing with its universal themes and its particular rituals, how to connect, difference within diversity, how to understand the goals of Islam, the direction of humankind, okay, despite our particular position here and now. And it also deals with issues like the importance of recognizing the essence of our acts and our rituals despite and through their form. For example, again, speaking about the sacrifice of Hajj, the ayah says, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا. Again, look, it seems to be in a context where the different religious traditions were making a mockery out of each other. Yeah, what are you doing? Today we make a mockery out of people either praying like this or praying like this. Then it seems they were making a mockery out of how people were slaughtering the animals. We've already said, the previous ayah said, this is a mansak from God. Submit to Him. This is what's important. Allow this act to have a moral impact upon you. Let it bring humility. Let it bring patience. Let it connect you with God and connect you with people. The ayah here says, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا. It says, look, the blood of the camel doesn't reach God. What reaches God? وَلَكِنْ يَنَالُهُ التَّقْوَى مِنْكُمْ. Again, what reaches God is this God consciousness, this awareness. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. This is what the religious tradition is calling us to be. Self-aware, conscious people. So this beautiful surah of the Quran, which deals with these broad themes, ma'ad, God, ibadah, specific ritual practice, how does it relate, okay, to the rest of our direction and our goal, and how can differences be understood? It's not telling us to leave our different unique practices. No, it's saying cherish your different unique practices, but recognize them as a means of progress to God, not of self-superiority and ego. Okay, it was also a verse, surah, very, very interestingly, which seems to be the first surah to legislate jihad. And amazingly, this legislation of jihad, the first physical jihad, okay, is legislated through this surah, according to the Mufassirin. And amazingly, this first legislation of jihad seems to be absolutely in line with this ethic of the rest of the surah. Okay, of not being a means of protecting the self-superiority of Muslims, but of preserving universality and of difference. Look at the ayah, phenomenal. How the vision of physical jihad we have today, and the description of why the physical jihad was initially implemented by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The verse says, verse 40 of the Surah Al-Hajj, reading from halfway through the ayah, وَلَوْلَا دَفَعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْدَهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ. It says, if Allah hadn't allowed humankind to defend some of it through others, لَهُدِمَتْ سَوَامِعُ وَبَيْءٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسْجِدَ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. He said it would have led to the destruction of the churches, the synagogues, and the masajid. Subhanallah. Look, that first jihad was in defense of religious plurality, not just in defense of Muslim self-superiority. Amazing surah. bringing together these broad themes with the very, very practical realities of how to engage with difference. What is worth striving for? And what is the direction we're ultimately moving towards? Now, just as we said that surah started with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it ends with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again mentions the notion of jihad in a much broader sense. The final verse of the surah commences with the words, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, and struggle or strive in the way of God in a manner which is befitting of Him. Now jihad, since we've mentioned it, most of the Mufassirin say jihad comes from the word jahada. Okay? To struggle doesn't capture it. To strive doesn't capture it. Okay, this is istifrag al-wusa. Okay, it's the absolute exhaustion of effort. This is jihad. Okay, to do juhad is the absolute exhaustion of effort. Okay? Now, Mufassirin have said there's basically three forms of jihad they're talking about, generally speaking. This says one is the external jihad. We've said that this very surah identifies the external jihad as first and foremost being the defense of religious plurality, not religious self-superiority. That's the external jihad. Then is jihad against shayateen, other enemies and deviating causes. And finally the jihad against the nafs. Here we see this verse has been identified as talking about jihad, this istifrag al-wusa, this absolute exhaustion of effort in the very most generalist sense. Because the verse says, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ, struggle in God. God, the source of everything, the end of everything. It is a call to give a whole with that awareness we discussed, with that consciousness in absolutely everything that we do. Haqqa jihadeh. Okay, a struggle which is befitting of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surely this jihad al-akbar, is the means of preserving our own selves, and through turning ourselves towards God, will surely turn those around us and the societies that we live in towards God and godliness. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr, innal insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Can we end with a Surah Al-Fatiha for all the marhumin who are no longer with us, and for the acceptance of all the hajat of the people who have come? Friday is a good day for prayer, so Al-Fatiha. Bismillah.